fisherman rides a straw boat to the middle of the Pacific to fish, but not long after he throws out the net, a powerful force suddenly yanks up from the bottom of the sea. In the struggle, the fisherman pulls too hard and accidentally falls into the water, but he doesn't climb back onto the boat right away. Instead, he risks his life swimming toward where the net disappeared, all because he wants to retrieve his tool for making a living. Little does he know, under this calm surface, there's a danger far beyond human understanding, and the fisherman has no clue about it. Seeing the net only tangled on the reef, he quickly pulls out a small knife to cut it free, but he doesn't notice the light around him slowly dimming. By the time he realizes something is wrong, millions of fish have gathered right above his head, and more fish are circling in from all directions, not giving him any chance to escape. The roles of hunter and prey are completely reversed. The fisherman's fate from here is obvious, but the stranger part comes next. A dead killer whale washes ashore with the tide. The terrifying wounds on its body mean it's definitely not a simple natural death.
You think they're bite marks?
What's gonna buy an orca?
So the marine researchers suspect nearby fishermen, but when they reach the port to question them, the lead fisherman says the killer whales were the ones who attacked the fishing boats first. The fishermen were forced to fight back with sickles and axes, but that doesn't make sense, because killer whales live in groups. They never act alone, let alone come into shallow waters to attack fishing boats. Whale expert Kit is completely puzzled, but what confuses him even more is that every year during this season, a huge number of humpback whales migrate to these waters, but this time he hasn't seen even one. This clearly doesn't fit common sense. But in a strange coincidence, the next day Kit detects a huge number of whales on sonar, so he rushes over in a speedboat, dropping a sound recorder into the water. As the non-stop whale calls fill his headphones, Kit starts to calm down a little, but before he can relax for long, a humpback whale suddenly appears near the small boat, almost like it's consciously stopping in front of him, staring straight at him with its eyes, sending chills down Kit's spine. But fortunately the humpback doesn't do anything unusual. It just stays for a few seconds, then dives back into the deep. But right when Kit tries to keep observing, he unexpectedly spots a group of killer whales speeding toward a distant tourist boat. Thinking of yesterday's attack, Kit immediately feels something is very wrong. He quickly packs up his gear and speeds toward the tour boat. Meanwhile, the tourists notice nothing. They're still happily watching a humpback splashing around. Little do they know, the humpback has quietly moved underneath their yacht and then rockets upward. As its mountain-sized body bursts out of the water, the smiles on their faces instantly vanish. Before they can react, the tour boat is split in half by the humpback. But strangely, the whale leaves right after doing this, without attacking any of the people falling into the water. Meanwhile, the killer whales are charging at full speed. Kit knows things are bad. He rushes ahead of the killer whales to reach the tourists, trying to get as many people on the speedboat as possible. At the same time, the people spot the killer whales diving nearby, so they desperately swim toward the boat. But no human can outswim a killer whale. Even though hope is right in front of them, people keep getting dragged underwater and killed. But what's even more terrifying is that the humpbacks and killer whales seem to be coordinating, like something is directing them, facing something science can't explain. Even Kit the whale expert has no clue, until he gets a lead from a shipping company. An old captain says his cargo ship had zero issues while passing Canadian waters, but the steering wheel suddenly jammed and wouldn't turn. He had no choice but to call a tugboat, but when the tugboat arrived, two humpbacks suddenly swam over, and without warning rammed the tugboat and sank it, in the exact same way the yacht was attacked. What's even stranger, when the cargo ship was inspected at the port, they found the rudder stuck because of barnacles, but the hull was spotless before the trip, and barnacles can't multiply into millions in just 18 days. Kit is stunned again, so he takes some samples for testing, and discovers the reason the killer whales went crazy. Inside the barnacles, he finds a fungus nobody has ever seen. Out of curiosity, Kit dissects the stranded killer whale, and finds the same fungus inside its brain. But killer whales are mammals. They shouldn't share a fungus with crustaceans like barnacles. So Kit concludes, this fungus mutated the barnacles, and caused the killer whale's strange behavior. Following the clues, Kit tries to locate the source of the fungus at the place where the whales attacked the fishing boat, but he discovers something unexpected. Connecting all the locations forms the migration route of the whales, so the fungus source must be somewhere along that route. The next day, Kit and the team begin tracking the humpbacks. To stay safe, he waits until the whales are asleep, but even so, seeing those massive bodies hanging upside down in the deep, Kit can't stop panicking. Every move he makes is careful, afraid of waking these dangerous animals, but the accident still happens. Just when he tries to attach a tracking camera, the humpbacks suddenly wake up. Kit's heart leaps into his throat, but fortunately the whales don't attack. They all rush upward toward the surface. The teammate on the boat sees this, starts the engine and gets ready to flee. Kit drops all his weights, and swims upward with everything he's got. He climbs into the boat just before the whales attack. His teammate floors the engine, and they escape the area. A few days later, following the signal, Kit finds the detached tracking camera at sea. He plugs it into the computer, and is shocked to see the humpbacks weren't wandering. They were lined up, diving deeper and deeper. But humpbacks must surface every 10 minutes to breathe, so they can't dive that deep. The only explanation is that something in the deep is calling them. Sure enough, as the whales keep descending, everyone is stunned, because deep in the darkness, there's a strange glowing white light, giving off weird sounds, and when the whales reach it, they stop diving, and seem to worship the light. The footage freezes here. The researchers are completely confused. According to all records, nothing in the deep sea can glow continuously, let alone emit such strong sound waves. What they don't know is that days earlier, when the camera first filmed the white light, something even stranger had already happened. Under an ocean research vessel, the seawater suddenly began boiling, with an eerie sound that shouldn't exist underwater. The entire ship trembled violently. Before anyone could react, the intact vessel sank into the ocean. In an instant, the entire institute is thrown into grief and shock. Grief because a longtime friend was on board. Shock because a massive research ship shouldn't sink for no reason, until they watch the rescue footage, and find the sunken ship is surrounded by a white glowing ring, with ear-piercing noises all around it. Even the old professor who has studied the ocean for decades has never seen anything like this, let alone the intern Kelly. But unexpectedly, Kelly is the one who discovers the cause of the accident. Back at the coastal station, she finds a video message from her friend before the accident, but she missed it because she was out drinking, losing her last chance to talk to her best friend. The guilt overwhelms her, but soon she notices something strange in the footage. Right before the video cuts, a white light rises outside the window, the same glow as the deep sea light, with the same piercing sound. To test her theory, Kelly extracts both sounds, the one from the video and the one from the deep, and finds they match almost perfectly. Kelly concludes the shipwreck is tied to these strange signs. She immediately contacts the old professor and reports her findings, but this is far beyond what the professor can accept. She refuses to believe anything supernatural exists in the ocean, so they end up arguing and part ways unhappily. But Professor Seagull, who overheard, makes a new discovery. When he gets home, his student Kit sends him whale footage, and comparing them, the same white light and strange sound appear. Tests confirm it. The professor realizes she wrongly blamed Kelly, but is too proud to admit it. So Seagull brings Kelly the footage while heading to a global ocean conference, acknowledging her findings, which also eases the tension between Kelly and the professor. They're getting closer to the truth, but as Kelly sees Seagull off to the helicopter, a disaster of unprecedented scale strikes, because the bearded guy doing experiments discovers everyone's phones are suddenly ringing. He checks his phone, and sees a tsunami emergency alert, and Kelly's city is one of the 3 warning zones. He calls her immediately, but Kelly didn't bring her phone while seeing Seagull off. Luckily, right before takeoff, Seagull gets the Institute's warning, and drags Kelly out of danger just minutes before the tsunami hits. Watching her coastal station destroyed so easily, Kelly is terrified, but at least she's alive. Others aren't so lucky. First, flocks of seabirds frantically flee inland. Then the beach suddenly pulls back. Anyone who's been in a tsunami knows this is the sign of a coming disaster. People start running. Drivers slam the gas. Those on foot wish they could fly, but nothing can outrun the wrath of the sea. 3 coastal countries are hit at the same time, and the Global Ocean Organization takes notice, so they hold an emergency conference. One virologist's speech shocks every top scientist watching, and makes them realize a disaster far more terrifying than the tsunami is coming fast.
Seagull, are you watching?
The cage clearly had no bait, but this lobster still crawled in on its own. It let the fisherman catch it on purpose. After it was sent to the seafood market, a local chef happened to buy this lobster, but while preparing it, he found some unknown liquid leaking from the bottom. The chef flipped the lobster over to check it out, but the next second, the chef who got sprayed in the face instantly lost all interest in working, so he directly called his assistant to clean up. But the assistant, wanting to free a hand to wipe the table, casually handed the lobster to the female apprentice beside him, and when the apprentice crushed the lobster, she also accidentally got sprayed all over, but she did not think much of it. Seeing the lobster already flushed into the drain, she walked away. Little did she know, this action would bring a huge disaster to the entire city. That night, the chef suddenly felt weak while working. He simply thought he just had not rested enough, so he decided to leave work early and go home, but he collapsed halfway with his legs giving out. Black blood came out of his mouth and he died on the spot, and the assistant, who had also touched the lobster, was sent to the ICU the next day. But faced with such strange symptoms, the doctors had no idea what to do. They could only watch him die in pain. So to find the cause, Dr. Anna went to the restaurant manager to ask questions, but he also did not know. He only knew the chef had handled a lobster that day, and the assistant and apprentice tossed the lobster into the grinder afterward. Then 2 of them died tragically, and the remaining apprentice apprentice called in sick this morning. Hearing this, Anna immediately asked for the apprentice's address. She wanted to ask for some details, but the person had already died, and the cause was exactly the same as the other two. So it was clear, the cause had to be the lobster. Anna immediately took the dead assistant's blood, dripped it on a slide, then cut her finger, and mixed her own blood with it. Under the microscope, she found the assistant's blood was full of marine vibrio bacteria, constantly eating away at blood cells. The speed was so fast, even Anna felt a chill. But more than that, she felt confused, because the human body naturally has immunity to vibrio, and based on past records, there are no vibrio bacteria in the ocean that can kill humans. But this strain was extremely strange. It could evade white blood cell attacks, and when mixed with human blood it produced toxins. Anna was glad she found it in time. Otherwise, if it spread, the consequences would be unimaginable. But she never expected. At a car wash somewhere in the city, a male worker already showed full body weakness. Then he vomited black blood, collapsed on the floor in pain, and more patients began to appear. But the strange thing was, none of these people had eaten any seafood before getting sick. Just when the assistant was overwhelmed, Anna suddenly remembered. The restaurant manager said the lobster was dumped into the grinder, so the bacteria likely entered the city's water system through the sewers. The assistant's face froze, because during just a short phone call, the number of patients had nearly doubled. So after extracting water from the car wash to confirm the transmission route, Anna immediately contacted the French CDC. She advised them to warn the public to boil their water, and temporarily halt all coastal fishing nationwide. But this move would greatly impact the economy, and since no other seafood had shown the same issue, the higher-ups did not believe the fishing industry would expand the bacteria's spread, so they rejected Anna's proposal. But what they never imagined was, on the South African coast across from France, an even stranger biological invasion was happening. A once empty beach, suddenly filled with millions of pink crabs. The boyfriend saw things were bad, pulled the woman toward his motorcycle, used all his strength to pedal and start it, and finally took off before the crab swarm arrived. But the crab swarm had already surrounded the whole town. The boyfriend, while dodging, lost control of the motorcycle. Both of them crashed to the ground, delivering first blood and a double kill. And in just that moment, the crab swarm already covered the entire town, so many that it stretched beyond sight. And similar events happened in multiple places worldwide. After seeing the news, Anna felt everything was too much of a coincidence. First lobsters, then crabs, and both carrying deadly viruses. So the next day, she had some crab samples brought from the outbreak area. She used a saw to open the crab's abdomen, took some fluid from inside, then mixed it with human blood. Under the microscope, Anna was shocked. The bacteria inside the crab was identical to the lobsters, and these crabs had no eyes, so they must live in the deep sea, which theoretically means they cannot survive on land, let alone attack humans. Anna could not figure it out, until her assistant casually mentioned the story in Exodus, where God sent plagues to save the Israelites. In short, it was heaven punishing humans for polluting the ocean. Anna first took it as a joke, but as the saying goes, when science cannot explain something, it becomes metaphysics. Anna thought about it more and more and found it reasonable. There are no gods in the sky, but that does not mean there are no intelligent beings in the ocean. Humans can train dogs to manage other animals, so ocean beings could do the same. But this idea had no scientific basis. The government would not take it seriously, so Anna decided to speak at the Global Ocean Protection Conference, hoping for support from the Ocean Association. But to them, a new virus was not unusual.
It's not. But what we could not have predicted was that it would be carried ashore by an invasion of an unknown species, which seems to have no other function than to infect us with the bacteria it carries.
After that, one committee member wanted to laugh but held it back. After all, crabs are low-level animals. How could they deliberately contaminate human water? So no matter how Anna argued, they remained skeptical. But Anna's trip was not useless, though the committee did not believe her. Several marine scientists watching on TV did, because in their research fields, they had seen even stranger things. Humpback whales attacking ships for no reason, ocean currents suddenly shifting, tsunamis appearing simultaneously along several nations, research vessels sinking without damage, and strange deep-sea noises, along with glowing unknown creatures. So Professor Nishitani contacted Anna immediately, and gathered the scientists who had witnessed strange events.
Something is behind the events we have all witnessed firsthand. Something that has weaponized the seas against us.
But such a theory challenged all existing science. If they were wrong, every expert there would lose their reputation. So the oldest female professor decided to leave the group, but without her credibility, their theory would lose validity, and the Ocean Association would not fund them. But the situation was pressing, so Nishitani forced himself to organize the data, applied for funding, and named the mysterious creature IR. Their goal was to contact the creature, to negotiate, because humans had no ability to fight it. But since the evidence Nishitani had was not enough to prove a species smarter than humans lived in the deep sea, the committee rejected his funding request. But although Nishitani failed to convince the committee, he convinced the CEO of a Japanese shipping company. The man said he was willing to fund Nishitani's research, for a simple reason.
I like you. Does this here exist?
With funding, Nishitani quickly assembled a team and headed toward the Arctic on a research ship, because in their earlier scans, the densest IR signals appeared at both poles, and the Arctic was easier to reach due to melting ice, so it became their first choice. As for how to contact IR, their acoustic expert Daisy decided to add human baby crying to IR's original sound, so it would clearly sense the change and know they were trying to reach it. When they arrived in IR's waters, Daisy began broadcasting the synthesized sound. Researcher Kelly and a sailor dove underwater to watch for any sign of IR, but not long after descending, Kelly saw many unknown objects approaching on sonar, yet when they looked around they only saw darkness, but soon sounds rose from the deep, like IR responding. But before the team could get excited, the ship's electronics began malfunctioning, and the sub lost contact with the ship. The captain panicked. Combined with the rapidly approaching shapes on sonar, he ordered Daisy to stop broadcasting. Meanwhile, the sailor felt something was wrong and wanted to return, but Kelly wanted to wait a bit longer, to see what was approaching. She was bold. The sailor hesitated but agreed. But to be safe, he turned off all the sublights, to avoid attracting unknown creatures. But after waiting a long time nothing appeared. The pressure and darkness made the sailor more afraid. Seeing Kelly still not ready to leave, he suddenly turned on all the submarine lights, and headed back. As they got closer to the ship, communication slowly returned. Everyone let out a sigh of relief, but as the sub entered the ship, Kelly suddenly noticed a white glow in the surrounding water. But she ignored it, thinking it was just light reflection, until Amy, alone in the sub bay, saw the tank glowing white. At first she found it strange, but the next second the lights on the ship flickered wildly. Amy's face turned terrified, but luckily the power came back in about 10 seconds. Then the captain saw Amy unconscious on the security camera. After Anna examined her, she found Amy had head trauma causing brain bleeding, normally easy to treat. But halfway through treatment, Anna saw red rashes spreading on Amy's arm. To figure out what disease Amy had, Anna decided to extract spinal fluid, but the results almost shocked her to death. Amy had the same substance found in the crabs, so IR had definitely entered the ship and had direct contact with Amy. Hearing this, Kelly realized the white glow she saw earlier, but the team still did not know what IR's purpose was in entering Amy, so the captain sealed the sub bay. No one could approach, but that night something incredible happened. Kelly saw IR in the tank glow brightly. Within seconds, it transformed into a starfish, then a manta ray. The scene stunned everyone watching. Then it turned into a hammerhead shark, and finally a squid, all ancient species of the ocean. With this discovery, their sponsor rushed to the ship, wanting to witness IR himself. After Nishitani briefed him, Daisy suddenly said she decoded a land-like image in IR's signal, and that image matched Earth's land from 250 million years ago, meaning IR had 250 million years of memory, telling humans it had lived far longer, and would not allow humans to destroy the ocean. It sounded like a warning, but since Amy did not die, Kelly believed IR meant no harm. To further study IR, the team collected some water containing IR, and Anna analyzed it. But Anna discovered ketamine, which is harmless to humans, could kill IR, which meant humans now had the power to challenge it. But Anna could not guarantee ketamine would work in open waters. The subordinates of the boss then suggested to test it in the pool first before releasing it into the ocean. Hearing that, Seigo rushed to stop their crazy idea, saying there was absolutely no need to start a war with the seemingly friendly eel, and no one knew whether the disappearance of eel would affect the marine ecosystem. If the ocean died because of this, then humans would be done sooner or later. The scientists present all agreed with that, but the side representing the boss refused to give an inch. With no other choice, Anna could only take a middle ground, suggesting they test it in the pool first, and then consider the next step. Seigo knew very well that doing this was destroying the hard-earned friendship with Eel, but since his colleagues had already agreed, he could only go along with it. Little did he know, this very action almost killed everyone on the ship. Then Anna, with a sailor accompanying her, dropped a single drop of ketamine into the pool. As Eel lit up with waves of white light, the entire ship began to tremble slightly. Then, under everyone's terrified gaze, Eel completely changed from blue to pure black. As the piercing sound faded, the entire ship's power system instantly collapsed. When Anna woke from her coma, she saw the sailor floating motionless in the pool. Only after pulling him out did they realize he was already dead, and all the ship's equipment had completely shut down from the previous sound wave. But the strange thing was, the ship was still moving, and it was moving sideways. Feeling confused, everyone rushed to the deck to check, only to see countless eels dragging the ship, charging toward an iceberg not far away. Daisy was the first to understand, saying it must have been Eel's death scream spreading through the ocean, and drawing the revenge of the others. Hearing that, everyone's hearts turned cold. The captain didn't want to sit and wait for death, so he suggested dumping all the ketamine into the sea. But Sego said that was suicide, because the ocean holds 1.35 quintillion liters of water. Even if all of humanity tried, we could never produce that much ketamine. So the only option now was to negotiate with Eel to stay alive. With no other choice, the captain had to agree. But how to calm down the enraged Eel was a big problem. Luckily, through earlier friendly contact with Eel, Sego already had a general understanding of them. They simply felt humans were their enemies, which was why they attacked us. So now, as long as they could find a way to prove humans are part of the ocean, maybe the crisis could be resolved. So Sego decided to inject Eel into the sailor's still warm corpse and throw it into the ocean. Once Eel discovered its cells could merge with human cells, it would understand humans were actually on its side and give up attacking us. But they needed close contact with Eel for the highest chance of success. So someone had to pilot a submarine to deliver the body to the seafloor, and Kelly, as the only person who could pilot, naturally took on this dangerous mission. But while everyone was still discussing the plan, Eel had already slammed the ship into the iceberg and dragged over a huge number of small icebergs from the other side, completely surrounding the research vessel. They didn't know what Eel wanted, but it definitely wasn't good. So everyone rushed to speed up the plan. Kelly would dive into the deep sea to release the body. Daisy would play the audio and visuals of humans evolving from fish into apes to help Eel understand humans shared the same ancestors, thus calming Eel. Finally, with both sides coordinating, Kelly safely reached the group of eels. But because the sailor had been dead too long, his cells were almost completely decayed. Kelly worried that giving Eel a human like this would make it think their cells couldn't merge, achieving the opposite effect. So Kelly planned to use herself as the test subject to contact Eel. Sego strongly opposed Kelly's crazy idea when he heard that, because once she left the submarine, the deep sea pressure alone would instantly kill her. But Kelly somehow felt she wouldn't die, so she ignored Sego's warning and cut the communication, injected Eel into her own body, then quickly opened the hatch, letting the icy seawater flood into the rear cabin until it covered her head. Sensing Kelly's presence, Eel miraculously swam into the hatch on its own, gently carrying Kelly out and wrapping her tightly. In an instant, Kelly's body, under the glow, began turning translucent, like a sleeping baby falling into a mother's arms. At the same time, everyone was shocked to see the icebergs around the research ship being slowly moved away by Eel. There was no need to think. Kelly had surely earned Eel's forgiveness at the cost of her life. But what they didn't know was that under Eel's carrying, Kelly's body had undergone a drastic transformation. When she appeared again, she had been washed by the waves onto a black sand beach somewhere in the Arctic. The scenery around her was mysterious, with a hint of eerie atmosphere, and when Kelly opened her eyes, she wasn't surprised at all. Instead, she showed a smile, as if everything had been within her expectations. Seeing this, some of you must wonder why Kelly didn't die. That was because once Eel entered Kelly's body, it changed her, giving her the ability to survive in the deep sea. And we could see that from the crab earlier. After Eel entered the crab, the deep sea crab could miraculously survive on land. Kelly probably believed she wouldn't die because of that reason.